She fled heartbreak for the beach to discover how a millionaire boss transformed her life forever. Sarah stood at the edge of the waves, the salty breeze whipping her hair around her face like the chaotic thoughts swirling in her mind. Heartbreak clung to her like the sand stuck to her heels, raw and unyielding. It had been weeks since she left Los Angeles and her former partner, a rising star whose ambition eclipsed her own dreams of being an architect. Alone in her family's old beach house, the memories haunted her, the vibrant plans, the late-night sketches all sacrificed for a relationship that ultimately left her feeling empty. Now, staring at the endless ocean, she questioned if she'd ever reclaim the lost part of herself. There was an unsettling weight resting on her chest, a mix of regret and self-doubt that twisted anew with each crashing wave. Every footstep along the shore felt heavy as she wondered if this summer would dissolve into the monotony of empty days. Would she become another shadow in a village that thrived on new beginnings? Just as despair threatened to swallow her whole, Sarah's routine stroll led her to an unexpected detour: the chance encounter with Jamie, a charismatic millionaire known for his daring designs that challenged the status quo. He saw something in her, something buried deep beneath her shattered ideals, and to her shock, he offered her a position on his team for an ambitious coastal project. "Join me," he said, his eyes bright with conviction. "You have the ideas, you just need to believe in yourself." In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within her, but alongside it, an avalanche of insecurity followed. She couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong in his world. Could she dare step back into the spotlight with a past weighing her down? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of Jamie's expectation pushed against her. Every day spent in the studio with him was a test, a reminder of the compromises she had made for love. Could she rise to the challenge when her old rival from university, a name that made her skin crawl, suddenly seemed to appear around every corner, whispering doubts into her ear? This was the opportunity she needed, but doubts clawed at her resolve. She felt exposed under the scrutinizing eyes of those who had laughed when she gave up her dreams. What if she collapsed in the face of judgment? As the presentation deadline neared, Sarah was fraught with anxiety. Her design held everything, her rebirth, her dreams colliding with relentless pressure. Would she go forward with her vision and stand strong, or would the ghosts of her past drag her down just before she could take flight? Standing on the verge of her breaking point, a looming sense of despair replaced any lingering hope. The stage awaited her, and with it, the echoes of self-doubt blurred her vision. But as she stepped into the light, each breath became an act of rebellion against her insecurities. What lay ahead? The moment Sarah stepped into the spotlight, the room felt like it had shrunk to a suffocating box. Jamie's hopeful gaze anchored her in place, but the absence of her former partner's support quickly surfaced like an unwelcome tide, threatening to engulf her resolve. She could feel the eyes of her colleagues, the subtle tension thrumming in the air, ready to pounce on her every word. A wave of paralysis flooded her, a near instinctual reaction against the scrutiny that had haunted her since her academic days. Ignoring the inner voice that screamed she wasn't enough, she took a deep breath and forced her feet to move towards the front. Jamie had shared the dream, the coastal project meant to intertwine the beauty of the landscape with innovative architecture. This was a chance to articulate her vision, yet her mind screamed that she would crumble under the weight of expectation. What if she failed? Then, an unexpected thought pierced through the fog of her dread. This design wasn't about proving others wrong. It was about reclaiming what had been stolen from her, a sense of purpose. With that glimmer of determination, she opened the presentation on her laptop. The slides reflected vibrant sketches and notes that overflowed with her passion. As she illustrated her ideas, Sarah felt the palpable energy in the room shift. The initial hesitation in her voice transformed into a tone of conviction. She spoke of blending sustainable materials with coastal aesthetics, of creating spaces that invited both comfort and inspiration. For the first time since her departure from Los Angeles, Sarah felt a flicker of empowerment coursing through her. But just as she began to see the individual reactions of her colleagues, the sneering image of her rival, Laura, intruded once more. The flashes of their past confrontations resurfaced memories of competition and sabotage, igniting the familiar embers of self-doubt. Laura's disdainful comments echoed in her ears. What if she was right? What if Jamie had made a mistake in bringing her onto the team? Yet, amidst those thoughts, an evolution began to take root. With each slide she displayed, Sarah envisioned her life not as a linear path dictated by others but as a canvas waiting to be painted anew. She could feel a change brewing within her, a burgeoning confidence, buried yet alive. This was not just an audition for her skills, it was her declaration of independence. When she finished, the room fell silent. As Sarah stood before them, the breaths that had previously felt like chains transformed into wings of liberation. Jamie stepped forward, a satisfied grin on his face. "You see what I mean?" he said, turning to her colleagues. "This is the creator you want on your team." He didn't just defend her, he affirmed her self-worth in ways she had never envisioned were possible. Instead of wallowing in her insecurities, she realized she could forge ahead by molding her passions and professional intrepidness. But anxiety still tugged at her, with every intent to dissect her shortcomings. Was she truly ready to embrace this new identity? Just then, the oppressive thoughts were interrupted by a clamor of intrigue from her colleagues. A discussion sparked, and the energy shifted again. Ideas bounced back and forth, the collaboration igniting creativity in ways she hadn't anticipated. Even as she basked in the moment, a new challenge loomed on the horizon. Her success would attract attention, both admiration and envy, and not everyone would celebrate her revival. As she departed the conference room, she sensed the storm of rivalry brewing around her, driven by shadows of her past and the persistent blemishing of confidence. Could she thrive amidst the scrutiny and potential sabotage, or would she waver yet again? Answering these questions would prove as pivotal as the designs she had just presented. With every step away from the room, her resolve hardened. She wouldn't let temptations of defeat creep in again. The time had come to confront her demons, and Sarah couldn't help but wonder what the next chapter of her journey would truly demand of her. The days following the presentation unfolded like a delicate balance beam, teetering between triumph and the looming shadows of doubt. Sarah immersed herself in the project, her mind constantly weaving and reshaping the coastal designs into something truly magnificent. Yet, for every spark of creativity she ignited, the specter of Laura loomed large. Sharing the workspace with her rival intensified the cognitive dissonance within Sarah. The desire for collaboration conflicted with the all-too-familiar tension of competition. Every morning, as Sarah entered the office, she felt the weight of scrutiny pressing down. Conversations would halt, eyes darting in her direction, and she could practically hear the whispers behind strategic whispers. The worst came when she inadvertently caught Laura's gaze, an expression contorted with disdain cloaked under an artificial smile. It was a stark reminder that her past held nerve-wracking implications for her present. Determined to rise above, Sarah sought out the support of Jamie, who continued to act as a sounding board for her ideas. She would often find herself lingering after meetings, discussing visions and innovations while submerging doubts. At times, she could feel barriers dissolving as they explored concepts together. Each shared laughter strengthened the budding professional relationship they had cultivated. But one afternoon, the air in the office shifted. An unexpected email popped into Sarah's inbox, an invitation to present the coastal project at a renowned architecture conference 3 months away. The thrill of opportunity washed over her, but with it came an avalanche of discontent. The pressure ratcheted up a notch. What if the conference spotlight magnified her insecurities? What if Laura and her faction showed up just to dismantle everything she had built? Her stomach twisted as doubt threatened to snuff out her fragile spark. Yet, amidst this turmoil, a growing determination flickered. She wouldn't allow the specter of embarrassment from her past to taint this moment. Staring at the reflection in her laptop screen, Sarah pondered the progress she had made. The shift from victim to creator was palpable. She had spoken her vision into existence, unraveling the threads of her identity that had long been dulled. The impending presentation felt like a test of her resolve, a chance to define who she was on her own terms. As the dates for the conference approached, she could feel the palpable tension of expectation mingling with excitement. Each night, she honed her presentation, scouring feedback from Jamie and colleagues, each iteration breathing life into her vision. The sketches morphed even further, reflecting her deepening understanding of self. The ideas flowed more freely, each late-night session an exorcism of her insecurities. But beneath the fervor of creation, the shadows persisted. Uncomfortable memories of Laura's sharp tongue intruded during her preparation. Was she crafting the project to prove herself worthy or simply to silence her critic? The question gnawed at her relentlessly, seeking to undermine her hard-won progress. The night before the presentation, as she paced her apartment, anxiety clawed at her insides. The city lights flickered outside, a backdrop to her turmoil. She faced herself in the mirror, confronting her own heart. This wasn't merely about architecture, it was a declaration of who she chose to become, and she refused to let fear dictate her narrative. Drawing in a deep breath, she made a decision to lean into her vulnerability, not as a weakness, but as a strength. If the moment arrived, she would honor her journey, flaws included. The thought kindled a warmth within her stomach, anchoring her resolve amidst the storms swirling outside. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ambient glow, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The upcoming conference would not only present her designs but also serve as a level ground where she could either triumph or struggle. An unsettling truth lingered at the edge of her consciousness. The real challenge was not the scrutiny of others, but the battle within herself. Would she step into the limelight and own her narrative, or retreat once again under the weight of self-doubt? She was on the brink of confrontation, both internal and external. With her resolve hardening, she turned off the lights and lay in bed, knowing tomorrow would demand perseverance. But as sleep began to envelop her thoughts, a sense of dread floated in the air. She couldn't shake the feeling that the true reckoning was yet to come. The day of the presentation dawned, as bright and fierce as the resolve blooming within Sarah. She woke with a fire ignited in her belly, the anxiety from the previous night tempered by a new sense of clarity. Her apartment felt different. Walls that had once echoed her insecurities now stood as a sanctuary of potential. After a quick breakfast, she dressed with precision, donning the blazer that had become a symbol of her rebirth, a garment woven with threads of courage. In the mirror, she saw not just a woman preparing for a public appearance, but a creator ready to share her heart's work. A deep breath steadied her racing heart. This was her moment, and the time had come to deliver her vision unapologetically. The office buzzed with an electric energy as colleagues filtered in, eager to witness the event. Sarah's palms slicked against her notes as she approached the presentation stage, the glaring lights amplifying her nervousness. Footsteps echoed louder against the polished floor. Navigating the swath of faces, she spotted Laura nestled among the crowd, her inscrutable expression weighing on Sarah like a stone. Uncertainty flickered again, but Sarah forced it down. This was no longer about Laura's opinion, it was about connection with the audience. It was about channeling the struggles of her journey into something magnificent and real. As she began, her voice was steady, resonating with the confidence it took months to cultivate. The presentation unfolded like a dance, each slide transitioned smoothly into the next, revealing the artistry of her coastal designs layered with stories of sustainability and community awareness. The audience leaned in, captivated as she spoke not just of aesthetics but the necessity of preserving the very landscapes she adored. Each point articulated brought her closer to asserting her worth, not just in her career, but as an individual. But as Sarah approached the climax of her presentation, Laura's expression shifted. A slight smirk crept onto her face, and it ignited a surge of irritation inside Sarah. Was this not what she hoped to achieve? She had envisioned this being a moment of triumph, sharing a vision that surpassed petty competition. Yet, why did Laura's look unearth layers of doubt she thought she'd shed? Focusing on the presentation, Sarah pressed on. She included anecdotes of challenges faced and lessons learned, moments of vulnerability now transformed into strengths. As she shared her reflections, she felt the shadows receding. Defiance replaced resignation. With each anecdote, she forged a clearer identity, not bound by rivalry but defined by resilience. Audience applause roared as she concluded her presentation, muffling the rumbles of her racing heart. She looked out across the faces, some animated with appreciation, others nodding thoughtfully. But with every clapping hand came a nagging realization. Was she still seeking validation from Laura, a figure whose opinion had loomed so large in her mind? In the aftermath, colleagues approached, some offering respect, others insight about future projects. Yet her mind drifted back to the moment shared with Laura at the close of the presentation. Their eyes met, and for the first time, Sarah didn't feel small. There was a flicker of respect in the tension between them, a silent acknowledgement of endurance, perhaps even a code of acceptance. In the quiet of the conference hallway, rummaging through her thoughts, Sarah was suddenly struck by the emerging sense of purpose. This was a new chapter, one she would author with her choices, her strengths. No longer would self-criticism curtail her progress. She instead clung to the revelatory understanding that her journey was far from complete. As she turned to leave, Jamie caught her eye, beaming with praise. She felt a swell of gratitude, not just towards him but for the allies she had cultivated. They were not mere colleagues, they were companions sharing a path of growth. But then, as her heart settled into a new rhythm of openness, the door swung ajar behind her. A familiar figure stepped out, Laura, the tension resuming its place. The moment of truth was about to unfold. Would she seize this opportunity to rewrite their narrative, evolving beyond the borders of rivalry, or would echoes of the past still haunt her steps? Sarah squared her shoulders. She was ready to confront whatever lay ahead, but the lingering question remained. Would they emerge from this exchange as co-creators or forever remain defined by their pasts? Sarah stood rooted at the threshold of confrontation, her heart hammering as she leaned against the doorframe, absorbing the tension that crackled in the space between her and Laura. She didn't want to retreat into former roles or unearth old wounds. This was her chance to shift the dynamic, not just between the two of them, but within herself. "Congratulations on your presentation," Laura said, her tone uncharacteristically measured. However, Sarah detected an undercurrent. Was it rivalry, or perhaps something else? "Thanks, Laura. I appreciate it," Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Yet inside, a swirl of thoughts beckoned for attention. What did this moment signify? Recognition, curiosity, or another attempt at undermining her progress? Laura stepped closer, folding her arms, the shield she often bore in their encounters. "You spoke passionately about your inspirations. It's evident you've put real thought into them." "I have," Sarah responded, emboldened by Laura's tentative acknowledgement. "And I'm not just about the designs anymore. It's about creating something that respects the environment and the community." Laura raised an eyebrow, as if surprised by Sarah's assertiveness. "That's quite a shift for you. You sound confident." The words felt like a double-edged sword. Sarah inhaled deeply, playing with the weight of their history. "It took time, but I realized I couldn't keep looking to others for validation. I need to define my path." The silence that followed hung heavily in the air. Was Laura processing this newfound resolve, or was she simply caught off guard? "You've changed," Laura finally admitted, her voice quieter. "And that change is necessary for me," Sarah said, all the while reflecting on how easy it would be to slip back into uncertainty. "I don't want to compete with you anymore. I want to create." Laura studied her, and for a moment, it felt like their roles had flipped. The walls began to crumble, but doubt crept in. Could Laura accept this new reality? "Maybe competition has never been the issue," Laura finally said. "Perhaps it's about recognition." The admission shocked Sarah but resonated with her desire to find common ground. "Then let us use our strengths together," Sarah asserted, the idea gaining traction within her. "We can learn from each other rather than push against one another." Laura hesitated, visibly weighing the choice. The thought of embracing collaboration meant facing the fear of rejection or trying to connect with someone she had viewed as an adversary. "You actually think that's possible?" Laura asked, her guard wavering ever so slightly. Sarah stepped forward, heart racing with anticipation and dread. "It has to be possible. If I've learned anything, it's that we each have our stories to tell. They don't have to contradict. What if we combined our ideas instead of fighting against them?" A flicker of intrigue crossed Laura's eyes, but doubt still remained. And what if it doesn't work out? What if you decide you're not ready for that? After everything we've been through. The challenge in Laura's voice sparked a sense of determination in Sarah. Then I'll face it. Life isn't about staying within the confines of past discomforts. It's about evolving and forging new alliances. In that pivotal moment, the shadows of rivalry began to dissolve, replaced by whispers of potential collaboration. Sarah stood poised on the precipice, questioning not just Laura's willingness but her own capacity to embrace this new identity as someone capable of bridging gaps. A dialogue, but one that needed clarity. Was she ready to step away from old patterns entirely? Sarah locked eyes with Laura, an unspoken challenge hovering between them. Maybe it's time we explored these new beginnings together, Laura finally suggested, an edge of vulnerability present. The words lingered, a tentative pact forming under the surface. But with the foundation of her newfound courage still being tested, Sarah understood the true challenge lay ahead. Breaking away from her insecurities would demand more than desire. It required a commitment to vulnerability that she had only scratched the surface of discovering. As they shared a tentative smile, Sarah's heart plunged into uncertainty. Could this potential partnership truly redefine her journey, or was she simply building another illusion of hope? The next steps loomed ahead, filled with promise yet shrouded in risk. The door to transformation stood wide open. How would she choose to walk through it? The morning sun spilled through Sarah's window, illuminating the room and casting long shadows that danced across her floor. As she sat cross-legged on her bed, her laptop perched on her knees, she stared at the blinking cursor, a silent testament to her uncertainty. Today marked a new chapter, and yet an unsettling weight clung to her, a mix of excitement and fear about forging an alliance with Laura, an adversary turned potential collaborator. Her fingers trembled slightly as she clicked through her emails. Collaboration proposal, the subject line declared in bold letters. Despite her unease, Sarah knew this was her moment to redefine herself. She had spent too long defining her worth against others. With Laura's acknowledgement came the realization that she couldn't afford to let fear dictate her next steps. Picturing their conversation, Sarah leaned into her own thoughts. Was it truly possible to let go of the past? She clung to the memory of their rivalry, but soon reminded herself of the potential buried beneath the layers of competition. If they could merge their visions, Laura's keen eye for trends and her commitment to community-centric designs, might they carve out something truly innovative? The aspiration sparked within her like the first flicker of a flame, urging her to make a decision. With a deep breath, she opened a new document and began outlining ideas, possibilities dancing in her mind. An hour later, she found herself hunched over her laptop, her thoughts spilling onto the screen. What if we create a line of products that not only reflect sustainability but also tell personal stories? What if we could inspire others with our journey? Planting seeds of ambition in those who felt voiceless. The vision crystallized, becoming clearer with every keystroke. Then, as if tethering her back to her old self, a wave of self-doubt crashed over her. Who was she to think she could collaborate with someone like Laura? The enormity of their opposing pasts loomed like a mountain ahead of her, tall and daunting. Yet another thought crept in. Staying within the confines of her past discomfort had brought her nothing but stagnation. Enough, she murmured to herself, closing her laptop with a sharp snap. Sarah needed to act. Boldness had to replace the paralysis that had defined her until now. Determined, she snatched her phone and typed out a message to Laura, heart racing as she pressed send. I have some ideas I'd love to discuss. Can we meet later? The immediate response was swift. Sure, let us meet at that new cafe downtown. I'm curious to hear what you've been working on. A mix of relief and anxiety washed over her. Trust was fragile, and she felt it wobble precariously beneath her. What if the conversation fractured under the weight of their history? But in that moment, she also felt a new sort of clarity. Accepting the unknown was part of growth, the painful steps she had to take to transform her insecurities into strengths. The cafe was buzzing with life, the aroma of fresh coffee weaving through the air. As she walked in, the sound of laughter floated around her like a soft blanket, but her focus centered solely on the flicker of anticipation she felt at seeing Laura. As they settled at a corner table, she noticed Laura's posture confident, yet with an edge of hesitation mirroring her own. They exchanged pleasantries, but beneath the surface, the current of uncertainty crackled between them. "Sarah," Laura began after a delay, the flicker of sincerity in her eyes evident. "I've been thinking about our conversation. You're aiming high, and I respect that. But let us be real, what if we clash?" The question hung vulnerably in the air, a challenge laden with the weight of their shared past. "I believe we can offer different perspectives without losing sight of our shared goals," Sarah replied, seeking to transform Laura's doubt into a dialogue rather than a barrier. Yet, beneath the hopeful veneer, Sarah felt the lurking specter of their past. Would it really be viable to work side by side, forging a new identity together? Just as Laura began to respond, a waitress arrived with 2 steaming mugs, interrupting whatever revelation was about to unfold. Sarah grasped her cup tightly, welcoming the warmth as a reminder of the potential to blossom into something stronger than herself if only she dared to. As their discussion deepened, Sarah pondered how far she could push beyond her comfort zone. Could she stay anchored amidst the tides of uncertainty, or would the weight of her fears drag her down? The stakes felt high, every word exchanged was a step deeper into uncharted territory. With each sentence building on the last, it became clear transformation demanded courage, and she was poised on the brink of both a new partnership and a profound personal metamorphosis. "Then let's not hold back," Laura finally suggested, a reluctant excitement emerging in her voice. As Sarah locked eyes with Laura, the future opened up like a vast horizon before her, shimmering with possibility yet tinged with doubt. In that moment, she understood the journey ahead would test not just her skills and audacity, but her resolve to see the truths as they unfolded. What awaited them on this collaborative path, success or failure, remained uncertain, but the real question loomed large over her. Could she truly rise to meet this challenge, or would her past define her yet again? The coffee lingered between them, steam curling upwards as if mirroring the tension that filled the air. Sarah studied Laura, searching for any sign of hesitation, skepticism, or even fear mirrored in her expression. This was a pivotal moment, not just for their partnership but for her own identity. Could she allow herself to trust again in a space where competition had once thrived? Laura broke the silence. "I think we should define what success looks like for us. What's the end goal here? Collaboration sounds great, but without a common vision, we might get lost." The question hit home. Sarah had often been so focused on personal success that she forgot the importance of collective achievement. Now, staring at Laura, she realized this was not just about the collaboration but also about her own unwillingness to engage in vulnerability. "What if we create a mission statement?" Sarah suggested, her voice steadier than she felt. "Something that reflects our shared values. Community, sustainability, authenticity. We infuse that into every decision we make." Laura's eyes brightened. "Yes, and we could initiate workshops, sustainable design education for local artisans. Empower them, share our story." As they spoke, the barriers began to crumble, replaced by a burgeoning sense of possibility. Sarah felt the faintest flicker of hope ignite deep within. But just as the conversation flowed smoothly, a formidable memory crept back. Failures from her past endeavors whispered of inadequacy. What if our ideas aren't enough? The thought felt uninvited yet familiar, tugging at the edges of her determination. Could she truly escape the shadow of her previous mistakes? Proud visions crushed under the weight of expectations? "No, we can't think like that." Sarah pressed her palms against the table, grounding herself. "We've got something special. I've never felt so inspired." Yet self-doubt remained a tenacious companion. Could she reconcile those past failures with this new venture? Laura leaned in, her voice low and earnest. "This is a fresh start, Sarah. We're building something new together. Let us not overthink. Let us act." Nodding, Sarah locked eyes with Laura and felt a kinship form, one that was built on shared aspirations rather than competition. They were allies now, pushing each other toward uncharted waters. Yet beneath that commitment lay a thumping heart, a reminder that she needed to confront what haunted her. After their conversation faded into comfortable silence, a new idea struck her. I have a suggestion. What if we host an event to showcase our initial concepts? Invite potential partners and target communities to really get dialogue going? Laura hesitated for just a moment, her expression pensive. After a breath, she replied, that could be the push we need. But it's a risk. Ideas often get scrutinized in public. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of truth resonate within those words. I'm aware. But maybe that's what I need, a litmus test for my potential. To prove to myself that I can stand by my vision. Laura considered this, her gaze softening. You're right. We've both been held back by fear for too long. It's time we let our work speak for itself. The air buzzed with newfound energy, weaving together their aspirations into a tangible thread of determination. Sarah realized that this relationship with Laura required her to foster not just confidence but also accountability, a notion that felt both exhilarating and daunting. But then, just as motivation surged, a smattering of anxiety settled in. Could she truly expose herself to public critique after years of self-preservation? Were her ideas worthy of that challenging exposure? With a deep breath, she focused on her vision, connecting stories with artistry, fusing individual journeys into cohesive community threads. What they could create together reached far beyond profit margins. It echoed with purpose. Let us do it, Sarah finally declared, her resolve firm. Let us make this event happen, and free ourselves from the shackles of our past. As Laura nodded, a spark igniting. In her eyes, Sarah felt the horizon draw close. Yet a final thought lingered, a tremor of uncertainty rippling through her confidence. While the burgeoning partnership could open doors, could she embrace a future she scarcely understood? The unlikely partnership was a leap into uncharted territory, and what awaited them next was nothing short of a test of faith in her own abilities. As they landed on the specifics of their first initiative, a flicker of opportunity coalesced into an undeniable challenge. Each step would demand more from her than she had ever anticipated. Sarah, Laura's voice broke through her turbulent thoughts. Are you ready for all of this? With her heart racing, Sarah felt the truth crystallize. The moment had arrived to face everything she had feared. Ready or not, we can't hold back any longer. And with that declaration, a new chapter unfurled on their collaborative journey, one that hinted at the possibility of transformation overshadowed by unyielding doubt. What awaited them just beyond that horizon? As the days rolled on, Sarah found herself consumed by the prospect of the upcoming initiative. Each morning, she brewed a pot of coffee with the same nervous energy that danced through her veins. She could sense the potential crashing like waves against the shore, exhilarating yet intimidating. With every conversation between her and Laura, they sculpted their vision more concretely, but the shadows of doubt lingered like storm clouds. In the evenings, Sarah would sit at her kitchen table, scribbling ideas in her notebook, each line an attempt to silence the doubts threatening to drown her creativity. She wondered if this time would be different. Would her new partnership allow her to rise from the ashes of past failures? Or would she merely be setting herself up for another public display of inadequacy? Around 10 o'clock one night, reinvigorated by inspiration, she called Laura. What if we bring in a guest speaker for the initial concept showcase? She suggested, her voice a whirlwind of possibilities. Someone who has made a real impact in sustainable design. They could motivate the crowd and lend authenticity to our vision. Laura's enthusiasm was evident even over the phone. That's an excellent idea. We need someone who can establish credibility, and it could also build traction for our project. But do we know anyone? The once familiar question teased at old insecurities. Who was she to network with industry leaders? But then, she recalled a connection she had made in her previous job, an established designer known for advocating sustainable practices. Suddenly, determination surged, pushing the shadows of uncertainty aside. Actually, I think I might know someone, Sarah replied, her breath catching in her throat as she considered reaching out. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I'll try. After hanging up, Sarah's heart raced. She spent half the night crafting an email, perfecting her pitch to the designer, outlining her vision and the importance of authenticity in their project. She pressed send just before dawn, and a wave of anxiety crashed over her like an icy shower. Seeking distraction, she took a walk along the beach. The gentle waves lapped at her feet, mirroring the rhythm of her racing thoughts. As she wandered, she wrestled with her uncertainties. What if she had misjudged everything? What if the designer turned her down? Worse still, what if he agreed and her expectations faltered again? But as she gazed at the horizon, the sun peeking above the water, a feeling of clarity washed over her. This journey wasn't merely about outward validation, it was an inner reclamation, a declaration of her commitment to growth and authenticity. She wasn't just looking for success as a designer, she needed to embrace her own narrative, flaws and all. When Sarah returned home, she found an email notification lighting up her screen. The designer had responded. Heart pounding, she opened the message, scrolling through his words. He was intrigued. He wanted to meet. In that instant, everything began to shift. The lighting in her living room felt warmer, each flame flickering with possibilities. But the thrill was intertwined with a reality she couldn't ignore. Melodic hues of hope clashed with a thunderous tempest of anxieties, reminding her of her propensity for self-sabotage. Days ticked by as Sarah prepared for her meeting. She rehearsed her pitch, even stood in front of a mirror, challenging herself to project confidence. Yet the closer the meeting approached, the greater the stakes felt. What if she let herself down again? Arriving at the cafe for the meeting, she felt a rush of familiarity, a combination of excitement and dread. Taking a deep breath, she reminded herself to lean into the discomfort of vulnerability. This wasn't merely about selling an idea, it was about connecting her story with his journey toward sustainability. As she spotted the designer entering, an odd calm settled over her. She had emerged from the shadows of fear into the spotlight of opportunity. In that moment, she realized that her past failures didn't define her potential, they textured her narrative, making her all the more compelling. Seeing him approach, she stood tall, ready to engage, not just as a designer but as a co-author of a greater story intertwining with his. This defining moment promised both challenge and triumph. Her resolve had never felt stronger. The questions began circling in her mind, pushing her forward. Would she finally claim her voice in the industry, articulating her unique vision? Would this meeting mark the inception of a transformative breakthrough? She extended her hand, ready for the conversation that could reshape everything. The time had come to face not only him but also the very essence of her aspirations. As she exchanged pleasantries, a sudden realization hit her. Would embracing this partnership also demand a confrontation with the ghosts of doubt, the ones that lingered just beneath the surface of her newfound confidence? The cafe buzzed with activity, sunlight pouring through large windows as Sarah took in the surroundings while her mind buzzed even louder. The designer's laid-back demeanor contrasted sharply with her rising anticipation. They exchanged pleasantries, but as they moved into the substance of their conversation, the weight of her ambitions pressed heavily upon her. "Tell me about your vision," he said, his smile encouraging yet expectant. Sarah's heart raced. She needed to articulate her ideas clearly, but the mere act of putting her thoughts into words felt monumental. "I want to create a sustainable design project that resonates deeply with the community," she began, recalling the essence of their initial conversation. "I believe we can transform perceptions of sustainability, making it accessible, relatable, and desirable." His keen interest urged her on, but waves of doubt threatened to drown her narrative. Would her enthusiasm be enough? Would they see the potential she envisioned? She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. "I've struggled with doubt in my career. I've let fear of my past hold me back. But this initiative isn't just a project to me, it's a chance to prove that I can overcome those hurdles." An eyebrow raised, he leaned back thoughtfully. "That's powerful," he replied. "You're not just selling an idea, you're sharing a piece of yourself. That authenticity can resonate more than any polished pitch." His comment ignited a warmth within Sarah. This wasn't merely a transaction, it was an opportunity to forge a genuine connection that validated her struggle and passion. Their dialogue flowed more comfortably now, her anxieties tempered by mutual enthusiasm. As they brainstormed the possibilities, a spark ignited between them, illuminating potential paths forward. But the echoes of her past failures were cruel reminders. Would he embrace her vision, or would their partnership be just another moment of disappointment? She'd seen what could happen when collaborations didn't go as planned, and it nagged at her mind like a persistent itch. Before long, they had fleshed out the foundational elements of her proposal, his insights adding layers to her initial concept. The synergy felt alive, invigorating, and almost palpable. Yet, a part of her remained wary, questioning if it was too good to be true. What if our vision clashes down the line? What if I can't meet the expectations that arise from this partnership? Setting high expectations isn't a flaw, he said, breaking through her escalating anxieties. It's essential if you want to grow. But it also means being vulnerable and honest when things don't align perfectly. That transparency is key to navigating a partnership. His words resonated, illuminating a truth she had feared acknowledging. Personal growth demanded more than aspiration. It called for the courage to confront discomfort head-on, even when it threatened to unravel her confidence. Embracing that vulnerability became the very core of her journey. As their meeting drew to a close, Sarah felt an electrifying sense of potential. "Let us do this," she said firmly, feeling a newfound determination course through her veins. She was ready to unleash her voice, to sculpt her narrative alongside his in a shared pursuit for sustainable design. The designer smiled, shaking her hand firmly. "Let us meet again next week to build on this." The conversation had laid the groundwork for something transformative, yet the stakes continued to loom large. The adrenaline of possibility ran through her, blending seamlessly with an underlying fear which she couldn't shake. Had she truly stepped out of the shadows of doubt, or was she merely setting herself up for another crash? Walking away from the cafe, Sarah felt a weight lifted, but she couldn't ignore the flicker of uncertainty igniting within her like a smoldering flame. This moment felt pivotal, yet it demanded an internal resolve she wasn't entirely sure she possessed. She pondered the challenges that lay ahead, questions spiraling in her mind. Would she rise as envisioned, or would she falter beneath the weight of expectation? Just as she reached for her phone to capture her thoughts, she caught sight of Laura's text lighting up the screen. "We need to talk." Something's come up. A knot twisted in her stomach. What could possibly stand in the way of their momentum now? The news that unfolded between Sarah and Laura was both unexpected and grounding. As they gathered at their usual cafe under the golden morning light, Laura appeared tense. "I've received an offer to lead a prestigious project abroad," she began, her voice betraying both excitement and hesitation. "And it's very tempting. But I don't want to leave you behind, especially with our initiative taking shape." Sarah felt a mix of emotions swirl in her chest, not envy, but an acute recognition of the journey they had begun together. This was a defining moment of growth for both women, reflecting their newfound respect and collaboration. "Laura, if this is what you want, you need to take it," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "You've always held great potential. This opportunity could advance your career like never before." Yet as Sarah spoke those words, uneasiness crept into her mind. Would Laura's departure shatter the foundation they had started to build? What would it mean for their project, their dreams, and for Sarah's own progress? She pushed the doubts aside, forcing herself to focus on the moment. This was a chance to show how deeply she had learned to embrace support rather than sabotage. "I just want us to finish this journey together, especially after everything we've built," Laura said, her eyes searching Sarah's for reassurance. With a deep breath, Sarah leaned in, fueled by the desire for mutual growth. "We can always pivot. If you have to leave, I'll find ways to carry the vision forward." "I'm ready for it, Laura, and I'm getting better at trusting myself." In that moment, she realized the transformation had taken root not just in her career aspirations, but within her ability to be part of a genuine catalyst for change. The pressure of Laura's influence was not a burden anymore, it was a launch pad for her growth. Laura smiled softly, the tension easing between them. "I believe in you, and it's incredible watching you grow," she said, her voice tinged with warmth. "Let us map out the next steps for the project, and when I go, I'll keep communicating. We'll make it work." The idea of forging ahead without Laura felt both daunting and exhilarating. Sarah had once viewed their competition as a hindrance. Now, however, she saw it as an impetus for her development. If Laura could embrace this new opportunity, so could she. Over the next weeks, they crafted a clear plan that highlighted their goals and objectives for the initiative, prioritizing collaboration and audience engagement. Sarah felt the anxiety lift as she grew more adept at navigating challenges. With each passing day, her confidence in her abilities flourished alongside their project milestones. The defining moment arrived when Sarah stood before a packed audience for their showcase event. Now, weeks later, she felt an empowering mix of anticipation and tranquility. Her presentation flowed seamlessly, and with every word, she listened intently to the reactions of the crowd. They weren't just responding to her ideas, they were engaging in dialogue, inspired by her passion and authenticity. As she shared her vision that night, she found strength in her vulnerability, eager to embrace this next chapter of her journey. No longer relegated to doubt or the specter of rivalry, Sarah gathered affirmation from the community as they took part in a healing dialogue centered on sustainable design. Then the unexpected happened. A member of the audience, a prominent leader in ecological architecture, approached Sarah after her presentation. "Your vision resonates profoundly," he said, the urgency in his voice clear. "We should discuss the possibility of partnership for future projects." Sarah felt her heart race, the opportunity enveloping her like a warm embrace. This was validation, a recognition she had always longed for, but now it signified so much more than mere success. It underscored her evolution as a designer and as an individual. "I would love that," she spoke, her voice steady and clear. The weight of her past no longer burdened her, instead, it propelled her forward. She was ready to seize this embrace of recognition, equipped with the lessons of her journey. That evening, as she celebrated with Laura and their friends, Sarah felt a profound sense of fulfillment wash over her. She had conquered the doubts that once clouded her journey, turning each past setback into a stepping stone. Her commitment to cultivating a sense of self-worth was finally reflected in her achievements. In the glowing aftermath of their event, Sarah understood that her story had shifted from one of comparison to collaboration, not just with Laura but also with herself. She had grown not merely as an architect but as a creator of her destiny. Her achievements now spoke volumes about her earned confidence, an established position within her field, punctuated by the tangible respect she garnered from her peers. With a renewed spirit, she set a clear intention to embrace every challenge that lay ahead. The foundation had been built, she refused to let fear dictate her future. Sarah was ready to lead, innovate, and collaborate, knowing that her path forward was one of authenticity and empowerment. Now, the real work began. The next chapter awaited her, woven together with every lesson learned and the promise of uncharted success ahead. If you resonated with Sarah's journey, you need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to help with the algorithm and ensure you're part of this amazing community. Comment below with your thoughts on Sarah's transformation and theories for what's to come next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us inspire them too.